The first thing that's up is guess what? Elon Musk buys Twitter for almost $44 billion.
He's got a cowboy hat for this, like Bezos had for his dick rocket. That's hilarious, dude.
It is kind of funny when guys like that put on cowboy hats.
I think he's mocking Jeff Bezos with that cowboy hat. I swear to God.
He's got to be, right? He had to be. Hopefully that's a sketch. Elon Musk tweeted out, I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means.
My God, he sounds like Hitler. My God, I feel like I'm in the Weimar Republic on the last night of Weimar.
So here's his statement. Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated, said Musk. I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source. Who could disagree with that? To increase trust. So what that means, open source means if they're suppressing someone or they're boosting others, they're not going to hide it anymore. They're going to tell you how your tweets get promoted or not promoted. They're going to show you what the algorithm is. They're not going to hide it like everybody does right now. Meaning Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everybody hides it. Twitter. And he's saying they're going to make it public so you can be transparent and you can see that they're not up to nefarious shit by boosting, people that are connected with the CIA or the FBI or the national security apparatus or for corporations or not, or suppressing people who are anti-establishment like they do now. So that's great. And people are afraid of that. Believe me, there's a lot of Biden voters who are afraid of that. What do you want to say, Kurt?
Rick Overton just texted me. His nickname is Twitler to them. He's Twitler.
Make up to that. Defeating the spam bots and authenticating all humans, Twitter has tremendous potential. I don't like the authenticating all humans part. That seems a little... I look forward to working with the company and the community of users to unlock it. So I like what Shant Mesrobian, he always has a good take. He says, so Twitter's board went from adopting a poison pill to accepting acquisition in the span of a week. You remember that? They were saying that the board is putting a poison pill in the deal, so even if he does buy it, it'll screw him, so he won't want to buy it. So they went from adopting a poison pill to accepting Elon Musk's offer in the span of a week. Yeah, I just can't understand why people think the company was adrift and needed new leadership. Okay, very well said. So Caitlin Johnstone takes a little bit of a different tack. She says, you don't get to be a billionaire, much less a billionaire media owner, if you don't collaborate with existing power structures. Very true. Musk will only be permitted to buy Twitter if the oligarchic empire doesn't feel he possesses a meaningful threat to imperial narrative control. I can't say she's wrong on this. I think she's right. I'll start paying attention to, because I want to be excited about this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be excited about this. But she's like a cold slap in the face. Like, oh, wake up, dummy. I'm like, all right. I'll start paying attention to Musk's talk about free speech as soon as Russian media stop being censored here and accounts suspended for criticizing establishment narratives like Real Scott Ritter get restored. So that'll be a big test. She's right. If Elon Musk then allows RT back on Twitter and people like the weapons inspector Scott Ritter, who we had on the show, who got kicked off for telling for having his own ideas about war crimes in Ukraine. She goes on to say, until then, I'll assume he's at most only interested in protecting speech that doesn't threaten the powerful, like Republican partisan bullshit and hate speech against marginalized groups. I would say he's going to give it to Aries. No, that's the narrative. A lot of people are afraid of that happening. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to actually enforce free speech. Well, and if he doesn't, it'll be the biggest joke in a while. Put it that way.
Yeah, right.
So I think again, we'll see. I don't have to guess. We're going to see right away. We're going to find out.
The open source thing where they got to tell you why
Yeah,
your stuff's being taken away. That's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, everything hinges on they get to just kind of not have it, because once principles are installed, everybody has to follow them. Like there's no kind of getting around them. So if he actually has that, where you have to, I don't know. I have no idea. Like
that tweet that Tulsi tweeted out that called Hillary Clinton the queen of all warmongers. Every time somebody retweets that, I'll see it every couple of weeks, and my like has disappeared. And people make jokes about it. Time to go like this for the 10th time. So that algorithm, there's an algorithm that takes likes away from certain tweets that the establishment doesn't want you to see. And of course, the national security state is embedded in big tech, Silicon Valley, of course. So there we go. So we'll see. We'll see if it turns out that he only lets Republican partisan stuff and hate speech against marginalized groups happen, and if he's really committed to letting free speech happen. We're going to see. Michael Tracy says, this is like 9/11, Pearl Harbor, Charlottesville, the 2016 election, and invasion of Ukraine combined. Of course, he's being funny. Here's what Garland Nixon, friend of the show, says. Breaking news. Anonymous officials leak that the CIA is working on arranging for a totally independent whistleblower to expose misogyny, transphobia, and lots of really bad stuff as soon as Elon Musk takes over Twitter. Very funny tweet. By the way, probably 100% accurate. I'd rather live in a world where Alex Jones is allowed to lie to me than a world where I'm not allowed to criticize my leaders, says Primo Radical, who just got banned from YouTube for an interview he did with me.
What?
Yeah, he just got a strike on that video that he interviewed me. It was called Jimmy Dore Uncensored, ironically, and it got censored.
That's for what is,
No. They didn't.
Not open source.
It's not open source. That's why. I think you're right. So this guy says it's absolute. So then I think people start freaking out. So here's some people who are freaking out about it. It's absolutely insane that Twitter at Twitter right now, meaning the employees. This guy. In the virtual valves of private Slack rooms and employee group texts, according to an internal source. Their take breakdown just now, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I really don't want to work for a company that is owned by Elon Musk. Why can't it be owned by the Saudis? Why can't it be owned by Jeff Bezos, Dr. Evil? Oh, this sucks so much. Why can't it be owned by a military industrial complex weapons manufacturer? Why can't it be owned by a tobacco company? Why can't it be owned by a health insurance company? Why can't it be owned by Wall Street that has been crushing people for decades? Just this one billionaire bothers them. Here's Sean King. Sean King went off he lost his mind. He goes, at its root, Elon Musk wanting to purchase Twitter is not about left versus right. At first, I thought this was good. This is going to be a good tweet, I thought, at first.
Yeah, Sean King's usually good.
And then he says, it's about white power. The man was raised in apartheid by a white nationalist. He's upset that Twitter won't allow white nationalists to target and harass people. That's his definition of free speech.
Well, that's big of him as a white man to admit that.
Like that's a pretty big accusation to throw at
somebody.
Guy's
a complete sack of shit. Like
that's a pretty big. I'm just saying, hey, if that's true, you got to have a shit ton of references and links.
That's why I boycott Dave Matthews and Charlize Theron. I take my Russia prejudice and put it on them. Like South Africa, probably apartheid.
Oh, they're for Dave Matthews from South Africa too?
Yeah. Yeah, those three African.
Okay, I got you. Anyway. So Nathan J. Robinson, I wish we would have showed this tweet first. That would be the important tweet to show first. So this guy, I love the hilarious irony about this guy, Nathan J. Robinson, is that he calls himself a socialist and a super this, and he started a magazine, and as soon as they wanted to unionize, he shut it down. Yeah, right. And it was like 5 minutes after he had called me a not a real lefty or something like that. He said, I'm always attacking lefty people. I don't know how to build allies and shit like that. And then he shuts down his own magazine when they tried to unionize. So that was funny. So then he went off Twitter for about 8 or 9 months, and now he's back to say some more stupid shit.
No bow tie? He gave up on a bow tie?
I don't know. Maybe he still dresses like what they call a dandy. He's what they call a dandy. So he says, remember that once Elon Musk owns Twitter, every tweet you send is performing free labor for him and using your personal free time to increase his wealth. When you write a popular tweet, you're a writer offering revenue-driving content to the world's richest man for free.
So wasn't I doing that to another? When are you not doing that?
When are you exactly? When are you not doing that? When I'm watching MSNBC, I'm actually helping orphans. What is it? Or am I helping enrich the richest people and the oligarchs who have been killing people and starting wars and oppressive blah blah and keeping the water dirty in Flint? Who am I helping by watching CNN? Who am I helping by going on Facebook? Who am I helping by going on Instagram? This is just what I said.
He's a worm, dude.
I go, remember, every tweet you send is currently performing free labor for the Saudis who chop up journalists and are committing genocide in Yemen. I'm currently increasing their wealth with this tweet, but I want to censor dissenting voices, so I'm pretending that's not the case. So that's just a bullshitter. This guy's like 32 years old, and he's that big of a fucking bullshitter already?
Well, you see his outfits. Who dresses like that?
I said him, dandies.
But do you see that thing where he goes, the richest man? He didn't use the tactic the other ones did of saying he's like South Africa, Hitler, and all that. He goes, you're just making the world's richest man. So solely you're supposed to go, oh, he's the richest man? I only want to enrich slightly less
rich
than the richest. The ones that switch places with him occasionally.
Zuby, this guy always has some good tweets. He says, it's always interesting to note who feels threatened, angry, or upset by the notion of more people being allowed to voice their opinions. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Ben Collins says there are plenty of this. Oh, here's a guy who's afraid. He says there are plenty of models for where this site is likely headed. I'm on those sites all day. I cover extremism and lives for a living. You're not gonna like it. Yeah, free speech is ugly. And you guys are gonna regret the day you got the freedom to speak your mind. Believe me. Believe me. You want an unelected bureaucrat in Silicon Valley censoring shit. We all need it. And this guy works. Who does he work for? Can you look it up? Who does this guy work for?
I know his name. He's this asshole. This is like in The Wire when they pushed all the heroin addicts into one hell section of town, you know? And they were like, you just created hell here. Like, that's what happens when you put ghettoize people. It turns into a ghetto, and you're horrified by the thing that you helped create.
Oh, this guy works for NBC News, of course.
A senior reporter.
Senior reporter at NBC News.
Is it the darkness on the edge of town coming in?
Here's what Glenn Greenwald says to that tweet. He says, I'm not really sure how or why it happened, and at some point it should be studied with the perspectives of some temporal distance, but the neediest, most ardent, and most passionate censorship crusaders are the tattletale employees of media corporations like this. And that's exactly right. Boy, look at the highfalutin language he used. He's really trying to impress somebody. Some temporal distance? The fuck? What is that?
Time.
Hey, sir, right? Hey, Siri, what's the definition of temporal? Siri, talk to me. Hey, Siri, what's the definition of temporal?
Temporal means, of course, situated in the temples of the head. Do you want to hear the next one?
Yes, I want to hear the next one.
It's time. Yeah.
It means relating to worldly as opposed to spiritual affairs, secular. Do you want to hear the last one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God.
I guess she's not.
Relating to time.
That's all. It's all. I know more stuff in Siri.
It's like she gave us the definitions backwards, right? Like of importance or use. Anyway, Anyway, we need some temporal distance. There are so many amusing aspects to this utter panic and meltdown of corporate media employees at the prospect of Musk's control of Twitter. Perhaps the funniest are ones who work at huge corporations owned by Bezos. Other billionaires are lamenting billionaire control of media. So let me read that again. Perhaps the funniest are the ones who work at huge corporations owned by Bezos. That was how it was written. Okay. I thought
you didn't put and,
right? And other billionaires. That's it.
Yeah.
Are lamenting billionaire control. That is the irony. Like they're acting like this is the first time this ever happened. They don't have a problem
with the rich. That's the thing. They all want to be rich, but they know like, oh, you poor people, you hate like rich people, right? So like he's really rich. You should hate him the most. That's the talking down to you of constant. And then understand half these people, especially the young ones in the media, they got into the mainstream media by first practicing their fucking cancel nonsense in blogs. And
yeah,
a lot of them made their bones like getting people collecting scalps. So now they control the whole like discourse on there, and they're going to lose complete control of that. And also, they're all Taylor Lorenz's inside.
Yeah.
So look at how she reacted to getting even a taste of all the things she does. She couldn't believe it could happen to her. They're thinking about it.
Here, Glenn goes on. Corporate journalists, deeply upset at the possibility of a mild return of free speech values to Twitter, could always just build their own social media alternative that offers more censorship. Nothing is stopping them. Yes. Go build a super censored Twitter. Go and do it.
Well, they know something will stop it because they've been involved in stopping that competition themselves when it goes, like there's going to be someone like me to stop me from making. Also, they can't make anything. That's the larger.
So Glenn also tweets this out. This was in the Washington Post 2 weeks ago. So let me show you what it is. It says, Musk's appointment to Twitter board shows that we need regulation of social media platforms to prevent rich people from controlling our channels of communication. That's in the Washington Post, owned by Jeff fucking Bezos. I can't write. My cynicism cannot keep up with reality. So Glenn says, hi, I work at CNN, owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, and I'm really worried about billionaire control of media. Hi, like the way things were before. I like the way things before, with Soros, Omidyar, Google, and Zuckerberg running everything. Not a billionaire.
Not a guy who's a billionaire, by the way, from electric cars. The
from electric cars.
There is. You're making him wealthy for his environmentally friendly cars that you drive, by the way. Half of them drive Teslas.
That's right. I remember when he was supposed to be a big friend of the environmentalists because he's doing the electric car. He's not inventing it, but he's revolutionizing it. Here we go. Here's a great this is perfect for what is happening. For the shit lib freak out over Twitter maybe going free speech. Like, I don't know if Elon's going to actually follow through. If he does, it's going to be fantastic, especially the open sourcing part. Because then we'll see who's being shadow banned, who's being boosted, why they're pushing certain things, what they're not. That's the thing you want.
They don't want to lose that power.
Yeah.
That power of quietly working with people in the company to quietly just do things. That's what they're afraid of losing.
So here's what Glenn sums up what's happening. But this was before. So this is before he was very prescient here. Watch.
By far, the number one villain is Rick Snyder, who's now being embraced by the Biden campaign as somebody whose endorsement they're proud to have.
Right. So Rick Snyder, who's that horrible guy who poisoned and killed those people in Michigan, took the power of local government away from people, and fired their mayors, took over the cities like a fascist, and appointed managers to run cities, and it didn't matter if you had a vote or not. And then he killed people with the poisoning their water, and they knew about it. So then he said, there's no bigger villain than that guy, except now Joe Biden's in bed with that guy. Here we go.
It's the reason why liberals are so repulsive. They don't have any fixed beliefs. They weaponize everything cynically.
Yeah.
And they're so transparent about it. And then at the same time, so sanctimonious about who they are.
Right.
Right? Like, I remember like Lee Atwater, who of course was like a scumbag political operative, kind of like reveled in the fact that that's what he was. Right? Like Roger Stone is sort of the same way. Like they're totally amoral scumbags, but they kind of admit it. They don't really pretend otherwise. Liberals are exactly the same. They have zero principles. They weaponize everything against their enemies and then ignore and give license to whoever's on their side. But then at the same time are so self-righteous about who they are. And that's what makes them uniquely repulsive.
So those are the people calling for censorship. That's who he's describing. So it happened. Elon Musk has got control of Twitter. Let's see if he institutes the threats of freedom and liberty and free speech. Let's see if he actually does it. If he does it, it'd be fantastic. And if he doesn't, it'll be a tragedy. And then Caitlin Johnstone will be a soothsayer again. We're doing live stand-up shows in Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, Las Vegas, all over the country. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for tickets. And single tickets now available at all venues. So if you tried to buy one before and you couldn't, single tickets are now available. Plus, while you're at jimmydorecomedy.com, why don't you become a premium member? Sign up to our mailing list so when they cancel us, we can still stay in touch.